Muthumbi in Texas says, "Jonay, you are more than a brother to us. Your smile was infectious. You gave us so much hope and inspiration in this journey of life." Anna Njuguna in Tanzania says, "Nitamkumbuka Jonay sana kwa sababu among all my brothers, you were the one I kept in touch with the most. I was his good Kiswahili language teacher." Njambi Kangere from Maryland says, "You were ever soft-spoken. I don't remember ever hearing you raise your voice. And his pearly whites always disarmed you." Pearly whites was his smile. His teeth were brilliant. So his pearly whites always disarmed you. And you found yourself grinning from ear to ear. That's what she'll miss the most. A wise person once said that the best students get the hardest tests. Jonay got the hardest test. And I think we can all agree that he aced them with flying colors, including the most difficult one that altered his trajectory. Jonay's life was a lesson to all of us. Don't sweat about the small things. Smile and be happy. His spirit was overwhelming with joy, so much joy that it leaped from his being each time you called Jonay, wrote on his face, when he emailed you, or when he wrote on your wall. Let the way Jonay lived his life be a lesson to us. What matters is our spirit. That's the part of us. That's what constitutes us. That's what makes us, our spirit, not this body. The spirit is what goes with us wherever we go. Let us cultivate and strengthen and cherish our spirits. That's what Jonay did. He fed his spirit. And his aura is shining so bright, as is evidenced by the miracles that have happened since his transition. We love you, Jonathan, and we know you're smiling down at us. Jonay tulimpenda sana, ila Mungu amempenda zaidi. Tunashukuru Mungu katika kila jambo. Tutakukumbuka na tunakupenda siku zote. Until we meet again, your spirit lives in us. Ulale kwa amani. Your loving sisters. Thank you.
I stand here on behalf of the Ugandan family to pay tribute to Jonathan. And though I speak in the first person singular, what I say expresses what each of us would have said given the opportunity. My earliest memories of Jonathan are as this round toddler who would follow us around on our childish escapades, gazing at the world with these round eyes that seemed to express wonder and amazement at God's creation. I remember an incident when we got into trouble with Mom over one of our numerous adventures. Mom, being a teacher, believed in not sparing the rod. When Jonathan saw us being caned, he must have thought this was a new game we were playing and he wanted to share in the fun. So he came and lay down before Mom to receive his share of the fun. Needless to say, our Mom burst out laughing. And unknowingly, Jonathan diffused the atmosphere of annoyance and fear that had been hanging in the air. Such was Jonathan. There was no way you could stay angry for long in Jonathan's presence. The zeal he had for life would more than make up for your lack thereof. My next prominent memory of Jonathan is several years later, as this tall, young, handsome man, bold and full of eagerness to conquer the world. I had to do some mental take back to reconcile this man with a toddler we nicknamed Casper, after the cartoon character Casper the Friendly Ghost. The toddler in a nappy, laughing at everything that moved, the baby that everyone thought would grow up to be a short man, and we had given a second nickname to that effect, Ambali. But on close observation, the laughter had not changed. And that was actually the bridge across the many years that connected the toddler to the young adult before me. Jonah was to go out wandering around the world and visit exotic places that you only get to hear about. The adventurer in him seeking for satisfaction through numerous books that he read and the music of which he has a vast collection. In the process, Jonah was to become exposed to such an extent and become so knowledgeable that he could hold a conversation about almost any topic, be it sports, politics, the world economy, religion, philosophy. The day we got news of Jonathan's accident in Zimbabwe, I cried so hard, my eyes were still swollen the following day, and raised concerns among my colleagues at work. At that time, I was not born again, but the scripture that says we should give God thanks in all things came to my mind. I remember mumbling those words and telling God how I did not understand why. But because he said so, I would thank him at this particular time. That was May 29th, 1999, 2 days after the accident actually happened. When we look back now, there are huge lessons for us to learn from Jonathan's life, especially after the accident. For a young man with so much potential, standing at the figurative edge of life, full of promise and excitement, to be cut down and have such a sweet spirit like Jonathan's is nothing short of a miracle. Jonathan had a kind word for everyone, a word of encouragement, a word of comfort, a way of looking at the situation that is bogging you down and pointing the way out of it, such that I could not help but look at him in amazement and was forced to ask him how he actually did it. His response was that he had faced his demons and come to terms with the situation. The Bible says Jonathan, the son of Saul, had a spirit that he could work for David's ascendancy, even if it was to his own detriment. I believe that our Jonathan had the same spirit that made him look out for the betterment of others. It is that same spirit that would make him smile and talk with us on his last day, even when he was not well. We thank God for you, Jonathan. You touched our lives and left us richer for it. We can truly thank God now for what you went through, because it got to reveal to us your inner beauty, which we may easily have overlooked, being blinded by your physical beauty. And whenever I feel some situation is too much for me to bear, all I have to do is remember your sweet spirit to get me focused again. Fare thee well, Jonathan. Tilaku Muthumbi. It was truly an honor knowing you.
Jonathan the late is been my good friend. Sometimes I would call him friend, sometimes I would call him my boss, because he was so close and I could go to him and he's giving me some tips of some things that I would be wanting to do in my projects. He was just a good person to me. And there are times that he could also, when I wanted him to talk to my children, I would just, Jonathan, get to talk to Lavan. You could talk to Lavan, and Lavan is doing what Jonathan was doing. And so time and again, you would go to Jonathan's place and get some tips of how to do the filmmaking. That's what Jonathan was doing before he got into an accident. Sometimes with moments like this, you run short of what to say. But pole sana to the family in Uganda, and the family in Kenya, and the family of God right here at church. Jonathan is going to be missed. Actually, when we were coming this morning, I was saying, I'm finding it very difficult to imagine that the corner right there against the pillar where Jonathan used to be, you will not be there. And after service, that you will not see him with his wheelchair in front of the foyer of the church there. But we still thank God because he has given us that time. We have really enjoyed the times that we have been with Jonathan. I have really enjoyed the times. I've been so much encouraged, by his life. In the 13 years Jonathan has been in a wheelchair, for one would think that would have been the very, discouraging, moments to be around him, but it wasn't so. You would go to Jonathan feeling you're so low, and you would get so encouraged because you'd be there with a smile, and you're feeling you're having a headache, and you see somebody in a wheelchair and who's not raising his hand, and he has a smile, and you're thinking, what am I sorrowing about? He was just an encouragement. And I tend to think, and I believe, we're talking with my son when we're coming for this service, and he said, I think the reason why Jonathan lived 13 years, 14 years after the accident, I think God wanted him to teach. And as for teaching, Jonathan taught. Anybody who has been around Jonathan, you can bear with me that you learned something from him. The young, the old, middle-aged, we all learned from Jonathan. And Sister Muthumbi stood here and said, when Jonathan was coming from Zimbabwe, I didn't know Jonathan very well before he had an accident. But I'd seen him as a young man, but not really knowing him. But after the accident, he had an accident while he was in Zimbabwe. And I went to Zimbabwe. I saw Jonathan before the mother saw him. When I went to hospital to see him, and I came back and I was telling my husband the state that they were saying Jonathan was in, because I would still not believe he was not going to walk again. But, though Jonathan was not walking with his feet, but the truth of the matter is his spirit was leaping so high. Jonathan's spirit, all the time he was just walking, he was just moving. And we are hearing today, Sister Muthumbi said she didn't know the Jonathan that she brought up. And we are also knowing some of the things that we didn't know about Jonathan today. When you hear Jonathan was a CEO, Jonathan was heading this. And I remember one time Jonathan asked me to take, sometimes I could be his driver. He asked me to take him somewhere where he had a business appointment. And it was a big business that was coming up in his brains, and he knew exactly what he wanted to do and how it was going to be done. But I think in the process, somebody took it from him, stole it from him. And I took Jonathan to this office there, and then when we called the person he was coming to, he had an appointment with, they were talking over the phone, and the person didn't have an idea that Jonathan was in a wheelchair. And when we got there, then the person, when we called him, the person said, bring him to room such, upstairs, which is 3rd floor. And there is no lift. The building is made in a way that was not accommodating, us taking Jonathan there. So I called and I told the gentleman, I'm not able to bring Jonathan there. Maybe you'll have to come down. And this guy, he came down. They had a meeting with Jonathan, seated in the car park. He brought his chair, Jonathan there, and me as a driver was standing and listening to the brilliant ideas that Jonathan was bringing out. It was amazing, the things that Jonathan had. Though, Sister Muthumbi said his mind was intact. Jonathan was a very, very intelligent person. And, I said I didn't know Jonathan very well. And now when he had an accident, when I went to see him in Zimbabwe, I just fell in love with Jonathan. And it was like the rest of the time that when even he came back, Jonathan was my friend. Jonathan introduced me to many of his friends in Zimbabwe, and they are still in touch with me. I still get to see them, and of late, in the recent past, Jonathan was talking a lot of Zimbabwe. And I remember his expression on when I took him to hospital on Monday, and when I took him home, we passed through the house, and he was telling me, I wish one of these days I could visit Rua, rehabilitation center. I would go back to Zimbabwe. And in my heart, I was saying, God giving me the funds, I'll take him again. I'll take you again to Zimbabwe. Go and see those people and encourage them again. because Jonathan is for 1.5 years that he stayed in the rehabilitation center. That center, it was built for, shortly after we came out of the war time, and we had a lot of people who were physically damaged in the war, during the war years, and psychologically, all those emotionally, they were damaged. So this center was put on for people like those, and so that they can teach them again how to live in the condition where they were in. And that's where Jonathan lived for 1.5 years. And Jonathan, in that place, actually he had become like one of them, the CEOs of the center. They love him, they talk about him now, because even the others who would come in, still trying to find a way of living again after, being put, in a wheelchair, Jonathan was talking to them and encouraging them. And so the center did a very good job, I would say. And I'm going to call the matron again, and I'll tell them, this is what has happened. Jonathan is not here, but they did a good job in Jonathan, because they prepared him so well to live after the accident. And I would like to say thank you so much to the people that became my friends when we were keeping Jonathan, like Ben, we are still here, we're still your friends. Jimmy, who's Jonathan's friend, is seated somewhere, I think. Jimmy, we are still here, you're your friends. Your mom is still here. Ben, your mom is still here. And I would get in touch with Tom. Lord Tom, he's kept Jonathan for a long time, and he became my friend also. He's in Tanzania. I'll get in touch with him. Thank you so much, all the people that have been around Jonathan. And thank you, the Muthumbi family, because you allowed me as a person to come in your home anytime and enjoy being with Jonathan. I could just walk in there, walk straight in his bedroom, talk, do, all love, the laughter, the joy with Jonathan, and you never questioned why. I'll just going in and out as I wish to. Thank you so much, and we thank God for the life that He gave, the time that He gave us with Jonathan, and for all the things that we have learned through him. May the Lord bless you all. Amen.
My name is Rose Namale. I'm going to give my tribute for myself, my husband, and our 3 children. Jonathan was part of our family. For several years, we came to church together. He was our brother, Fred, and an uncle to our kids. We shared God's word, discussed issues of life, shared our dreams and aspirations. Jonathan played children's games with our son and engaged our daughters in various mental exercises. A great bond developed over the years, and we were greatly saddened by his death. Jonathan lived a very optimistic life, which was an expression of his deep relationship with God. He never complained and always had a smile on his face. His great faith in God made him an encouragement to all those who came his way. Like Abraham in the Bible, he never staggered at the promises of God through unbelief, but was strong in faith, giving glory to God, being fully persuaded that what God had promised, he was able also to perform. For any little help that was offered to him, his response would be, "Thank you very much, and God really bless you." Though Jonathan has left us, the memories of the times we shared with him will remain deep in our hearts, reminding us that the richness and fullness of life depends not on our circumstances, but on our faith in a sovereign God that never makes mistakes. Jonathan has fought a good fight. He has kept the faith and has finished his course, and henceforth a crown of life awaits him. We remain with the hope that if we endure to the end, when the last trumpet shall sound and the resurrection of the just takes place, we shall see him again. To his parents, brothers and sisters, friends, colleagues, caregivers who became his hands and feet and did for him what he could not do for himself, And to all of us who made his life easier one way or another, I say the words which I believe Jonathan would have said to us if he had one last chance. Thank you very much, and God really bless you.
We're very much in support of the family today and also post today. And Terry is one of our composers. He composed a poem for Jonathan. We'd like to ask him to start off with that recital.
Thank you. We all know that when our loved ones die, they're going to a better place. But we never want to see them leave because we're greedy. We want them to stay with us. And we try and console each other with our own words. But it doesn't always convey what that person might be saying or what he might be thinking. But he never gets a chance to tell us in his words. So the poem I wrote is just called Goodbye. It seems the time has finally come for you to lay me down. But do not worry, do not fret, for I'll always be around. I'm only just a thought away, on that you can depend. So think of me from time to time, we'll share a smile again. And let me say it's been an honor to share my time with you. And so next time until we meet, goodbye, farewell, adieu. I believe that's what Jonathan would be telling us right now if he could. Thank you.
And I'd like to ask Casey. To come on. Casey is going to talk to us about her friendship with Jonathan. She's actually the one who introduced the Cluster Foundation to Jonathan.
My name is Casey and I was a friend of Jonathan. Allow me to read. Jonathan was the kind of guy who listens when you talk, who smiles often, and who says things that make the people around him smile. He was extremely intelligent, but in a way that made others feel comfortable. It doesn't matter who you are either. Jonathan always had a way of relating to you, and once you return home after spending a day with him, you'll catch yourself smiling and thinking there needs to be more people like him in the world, because if there were, there would be far less to worry about. Worrying was never in Jonathan's vocabulary. He always made the best of every situation, no matter what he was going through. And even though sometimes life brought its ups and downs, he did a great job in never letting it show. And with his deep voice, speaking very slowly with a smile on his face, he would always let us know he is fine and he has a solution to whatever it was he was going through. I wrote this to Jonathan the day I heard he passed away. This is my message to you, Jonathan. 2005, 7 years. That's how long I have known you. I remember when we first met, your smile was the first thing I noticed. You have the most beautiful smile. I found you seated at your favorite spot under the tree, just outside your house, enjoying the sun. You love those moments, by yourself with a book or two and a bottle of water. I remember you telling me your story and how you became disabled. And with a smile on your face, you continue to tell me of your journey in hospital. You always find humor in every situation. We became close and I visited you often. We met at different events, spoke all the time on phone, email, Facebook. Every conversation filled with laughter and your constant sense of humor. Every day together we had good days. Yesterday was supposed to be a good day. It was your birthday, but I heard you were not well. Another bout of the fevers you always hated. You spent the day in bed, rushed to hospital in the evening, and finally back to your bed after a long, dreadful day. Today was supposed to be a better day. At least you made it through yesterday, right? But this morning you had had enough. Enough of the pain, enough of the fevers. This morning you took your last breath, closed your eyes, and peacefully went to be with the Lord. My heart broke when I heard you were gone. And as I write this, my eyes are filled with tears. It's hard to write about you as if in the past, because in my heart, you are still here. In my mind, you are a phone call away. Just one more day, that's all I'm asking for. To ask over and over if you are okay. I would tell you that you will be fine, that it is just a phase and you will be okay. I would listen and not just hear. I would see and not just look. See that you're getting tired and needed to be reminded your reason for living. You have cheated death before, why not this time? All I ask is for one more day to say goodbye, because however much I cry, your time had come. It's hard. It's hard to admit that God needed you. It's hard to say your work here was done. How could it be done when you had only just begun? Rest in peace, Jonathan. I pray that you are okay, that you are in peace, that you are happy, that you are free from pain. I don't believe I will never see you or speak to you again. I know I will. Until then, I will always remember your smile and your positive spirit, your wise words and your kind heart. Take care of yourself until we meet again. I will love you always and miss you even more. Rest in peace, my friend. See you in heaven.
Thank you, Casey. As you all heard, Jonathan was the Chief Executive of the Cluster Foundation. I'd like to ask Nick, one of the trustees, to come and give us a little piece on him. Thanks.
Jonathan was a very great guy. We all have our own experiences with him. But as from the Cluster Foundation, he was extremely great. In fact, other than to deal with the news that Jonathan is no more, one of the biggest challenge the Cluster Foundation, we as the trustees, had to deal with was to break the news to his fellow colleagues, the beneficiaries, and everybody else that knew Jonathan. I'm going to mention two experiences because of time. And one of the main experiences that I remember early this year, our main offices at Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, around the aquatic stadium, were temporarily closed because of the renovation that is happening in the stadium. But this is what Jonathan said, that we need to move on. This is a very big year, a great year. And we are going to have our office in my own home under a tree. We looked at him and we asked, what do you mean under a tree? And he says, yes, that tree has avocados. And these small avocados are growing, but they have a tendency of dropping. So this is what he said. I want us to feel the drop of those trees hit our head until we think right, until we have the right ideas. Because this year, we must make it happen to very many people out there. So we started the meetings under the avocado tree. And as brilliant as he is, there came this idea. Like Mom says, he has this ambition. He actually this year said that he's going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And he wanted to be the first quadriplegic, paralyzed from neck down, to be able to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. We started working on it because we know our CEO, once he says something, he's very serious. And we started getting in touch with the lead guide of Kilimanjaro. And everything was happening. Everything, I must admit. On October, we had even set the month on October